I, 28M, have been with my girlfriend, 26F, for 5 years. We share a 2-bedroom apartment in a high cost of living city. Both our names are on the lease, and we've spent the last half-decade building what I thought was a foundation for a marriage. 3 nights ago, while I was sitting on the couch checking my work emails, she walked into the room, sat in the armchair across from me, and told me she wasn't in love with me anymore. She didn't cry. She didn't look guilty. She looked like she was delivering a weather report. She told me the spark had been gone for 18 months and she had finally found her truth. I sat there frozen, trying to process the fact that the woman I'd planned to propose to in 3 months was speaking about our relationship in the past tense. Then came the kicker. "I'm not moving out though," she said. "The market is insane right now, and I can't afford a studio that isn't a dump. Plus, I like this neighborhood. We'll just be roommates. You can take the guest room since my vanity is already bolted to the wall in the master." I stared at her. "You want us to live together? After you just told me you don't love me? While I watch you go out on dates?" "Well, I'm not going to stop living my life just because we aren't a couple," she replied, her voice sharpening with that specific tone of entitlement she uses when she's decided she's the victim. "It's my apartment too. I pay half the rent. Legally, you can't kick me out. And I'm not breaking the lease because I don't want to hit to my credit score. We're both adults. Just deal with it." The next 48 hours were a blur of cold silence and the sound of her humming in the kitchen as if she hadn't just nuked my world. I tried to talk to her about the logistics of a buyout or a sublease. She shut it down instantly. She told me that if I had a problem with the arrangement, I was free to leave, but she wasn't going anywhere. She even suggested I keep paying the utilities since I make more anyway, and it would be the gentlemanly thing to do during her transition. I felt the first stirrings of a cold, hard clarity. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a calculated move to use me as a financial safety net while she explored her new truth. Last night, the mask slipped even further. I came home late from the office to find her in the kitchen, drinking wine with her best friend, 26F. They didn't hear me come in. "So, is he actually staying in the guest room?" the friend asked, laughing. "For now," my girlfriend said. "He's too much of a doormat to actually fight me on it. Honestly, it's perfect. I get to keep the place, he keeps fixing the sink and handling the landlord, and I can finally see that guy from the gym without having to hide my phone. He actually thinks I'm looking for a second job to save up for a move. I'm not looking for anything. What if he finds out? What's he going to do? The lease doesn't end for 7 months. By then, I'll have enough saved up to move in with someone else. He's basically my subsidized housing." I backed out of the front door, went down to my car, and sat in the dark for an hour. The betrayal was one thing, but the sheer, smug entitlement, the idea that I was an object to be used for subsidized housing, triggered something in me that I didn't know existed. I'm not a doormat, and she's about to find out exactly how expensive free housing can be. I spent the rest of the night parked in a 24-hour diner, pulling up a digital copy of our lease and calling a friend of mine who specializes in property law. I needed to know exactly where the lines were drawn. In our state, if both parties are on a fixed-term lease, one tenant cannot unilaterally evict the other without cause. However, there are clauses regarding quiet enjoyment and very specific rules about subletting and unauthorized occupants. But then I remembered something. Our landlord is a stickler, a retired military guy who hates drama and has a no-nonsense clause in the addendum regarding professional conduct and illegal activity on the premises. I also remembered that my girlfriend's guy from the gym is someone I recognize. He's a trainer at our local branch, and more importantly, he's the younger brother of my girlfriend's boss. The pieces started clicking together. She wasn't just leaving me. She was monkey branching into a situation where she thought she was untouchable. She thought she could keep me in the guest room as a backup plan while she auditioned her next life. I went home at 3 a.m., walked past her closed bedroom door, and started the first phase of my plan. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't scream. I sat down at my desk and began documenting every single interaction. The next morning, I was bright and cheery. "You're right," I told her over coffee. "It's just an apartment. We're adults. If you want to stay, stay. I'll move my stuff into the guest room today." She looked surprised, then smug. "I knew you'd see reason. It's just easier this way." "Totally," I said. By the way, I'm going to be doing some deep cleaning and organizing since I'll be in the smaller room. Don't mind the mess for a few days. Whatever, she said, scrolling through her phone. Just don't touch my expensive skincare in the bathroom. I smiled. I wouldn't dream of it. As soon as she left for work, I didn't clean. I went straight to the guest room and looked at the closet. It shares a wall with the master bedroom's headboard. Then I went to the basement storage unit where we keep our seasonal gear. I found exactly what I was looking for. A high-end professional-grade white noise machine I'd bought when I used to work night shifts, and a set of old vibrating bass transducers from my college home theater hobby. But that was just the background noise. The real work began with a phone call to our landlord. "Hey, it's the tenant in 4B, I said. "I wanted to give you a heads up. My girlfriend and I have split. I'm looking to vacate, but she's insisting on staying. The thing is, I'm worried about the occupancy clause. She's already talking about bringing in guests for extended stays to help her with her share of the rent." The landlord grunted. "The lease says no guests for more than 3 consecutive nights without written approval. You know that." "I do," I said. "And I want to make sure my name is cleared of any liability if she violates that. Can we meet? I have some concerns about the professional conduct clause too, given who she's bringing around." I had her. She thought she was playing a game of chicken with a doormat. She didn't realize she was playing a game of legal chess with someone who had nothing left to lose. By the time my girlfriend got home that evening, the roommate agreement was pinned to the fridge. I drafted it to look like a compromise, but it was a trap of technicalities. It outlined strict quiet hours, a rigid schedule for the kitchen, and a clause that stated neither of us would interfere with the peaceful enjoyment of the common areas. "This is a bit much, don't you think?" she asked, flicking the paper with a manicured nail. "You wanted to be roommates," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "Roommates have rules. Protects both of us. Especially since you'll be having guests over." She smirked, clearly thinking she'd won. She signed it without reading the fine print in the liability and damages section. She didn't notice that by signing, she'd acknowledged that the master bedroom, and everything in it, was now her sole responsibility, including any unforeseen maintenance issues caused by her specific use of the space. The entitlement started peaking on Friday. She decided to host a freedom party in the living room. She didn't ask. She just texted me at 5 p.m. saying, "Having people over. Stay in your room or get lost for the night." I didn't get lost. I stayed. I sat in the kitchen making a very loud, very pungent garlic and onion stir-fry right as her friends arrived. When her gym guy walked in, a guy named Trevor who looked like he'd never read a book without pictures, I greeted him with a wide, friendly smile. "Hey Trevor. Great to meet you. I'm the ex/roommate/landlord liaison," I said, wiping my hands on a towel. "Just so you know, the walls are paper thin here, and the neighbors are high-ranking city officials who call in noise complaints after 10 p.m. Oh, and the plumbing in the master bath is finicky. Don't use too much TP." The look of pure, unadulterated rage on my girlfriend's face was worth the smell of burnt garlic. She pulled me into the hallway. "What are you doing?" "You're embarrassing me," she hissed. "I'm being a helpful roommate," I whispered back. "Warning your guest about the building's quirks. It's in the agreement, remember? Transparency regarding communal living conditions." The party was awkward and short-lived. I stayed in the living room, reading a book on the couch, refusing to vacate the common area. Trevor left by 11 p.m., looking annoyed that he couldn't even have a private conversation without me accidentally coming into the kitchen for a glass of water. But the real work was happening behind the scenes. I'd spent the afternoon talking to her boss. I didn't go in there with accusations. I went in as a concerned partner. I knew the company had a strict policy against interoffice fraternization involving family members of upper management, especially after a recent HR scandal. "I'm just worried about her," I told her boss over coffee. "She's been talking about how she's dating Trevor. And I know he's your brother. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a conflict of interest that would hurt her career. She values her job so much." The boss's face went from professional to icy in 3 seconds. "Trevor is my brother, yes. And she's my direct subordinate. I wasn't aware they were seeing each other." "Oh," I said, feigning surprise. "Maybe I misunderstood." I just saw them together at the apartment so much I assumed it was official. My mistake. The seed was planted. Now it was time to turn the apartment into a fortress of discomfort. That night, as she tried to sleep in the master bedroom, I activated the transducers I'd mounted to the shared wall in the guest room closet. These aren't speakers. They turn the wall itself into a vibrating diaphragm. I didn't play music. I played a low-frequency subsonic hum, the kind that you can't quite hear but you can feel in your teeth. It's a frequency used in acoustic engineering to induce feelings of unease and nausea. I wore noise-canceling headphones and slept like a baby. At 3 a.m. there was a frantic pounding on my door. I opened it to see her looking haggard, her eyes bloodshot. "Do you hear that?" she yelled. "The humming. It's like the whole room is vibrating." I stepped out, listening intently. "I don't hear anything. Maybe it's the old pipes? I told you this place was falling apart. Did you check the master bath like I suggested? It's not the pipes. It's making me sick to my stomach." "That's weird," I said, yawning. "I feel fine. Maybe it's stress? Breaking up is hard on the body. Go back to sleep, Rumi." She didn't sleep. The next morning, she had a mandatory meeting with HR. She left the house looking like a wreck, and I went to work on phase 3, the landlord's inspection. I told the landlord I suspected unauthorized structural changes in the master bedroom. When he arrived at noon, I pointed out the damage she'd caused by bolting her massive vanity into the studs without permission, a direct violation of our lease which prohibited any drilling into the walls deeper than a picture nail. "She did what?" the landlord growled, looking at the heavy bolts. "This is a historical building. These walls are lath and plaster." "I told her not to," I lied smoothly. "But she said she paid enough in rent to do whatever she wanted. She's also been talking about painting the hardwood floors gray. I thought you should know before she starts." The landlord's face turned purple. He pulled out a notice to cure or quit form right there. "She has 48 hours to remove that thing, patch the holes professionally, and sign an agreement that no further guests stay overnight, or I'm starting eviction proceedings against her specifically," he said. "But what about me?" I asked, playing the part. "You've been a good tenant for 5 years. If she goes, I'll let you stay on a month-to-month or find a new co-signer. But she's becoming a liability." I thanked him and watched him tape the notice to the front door. When she got home, she was already crying. She'd been put on a performance improvement plan at work because of unprofessional conduct and poor focus, and her boss had dropped a very clear hint that her relationship with Trevor was a distraction the company couldn't afford. She saw the notice on the door and screamed. It was a high, thin sound of pure entitlement being shattered by reality. She stormed into my room. "You did this. You called him." "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, calmly packing a small suitcase. "But since the landlord is so upset and the vibe here is so vibrating, I've decided to take his offer. I'm moving my stuff into a storage unit and staying at a hotel for a few days. Since the lease says we're jointly and severally liable, and I'm the one who paid the security deposit, I've already discussed with him that my half of the deposit will be used to cover the repairs for those holes you drilled." "You can't leave me with the full rent," she shrieked. "I can't afford it alone. That's why I stayed." "Not my problem, Rumi," I said, zipping the bag. "I'm finding my truth too. And my truth is that I don't live with people who use me for subsidized housing." But the best part was yet to come. Trevor wasn't the guy from the gym she thought he was. I'd done a little more digging and I was about to drop the final bomb. "What do you mean my half of the deposit is gone?" she yelled, following me into the hallway as I hauled my first box toward the door. "That was $3,000. I was counting on that for my next move." "Well, you should have counted on the cost of structural damage to a pre-war apartment," I said, pausing at the threshold. The landlord was very specific. The lath and plaster repair, the specialized paint match, and the nuisance fee for the unauthorized vanity installation ate your half. My half is still sitting in his escrow account, which he's releasing to me since I'm the one vacating voluntarily to avoid a legal dispute. "You're leaving me with nothing," she sobbed, but it wasn't a sob of heartbreak. It was the sound of a person realizing their safety net had just turned into a noose. "I have to pay the full rent on the 1st? That's 4 days away. Trevor was supposed to help me, but he's not answering my texts." I set the box down and looked at her. Ah, Trevor. About that. You might want to check his social media. Or better yet, just call the gym. I had a chat with the manager there this morning. Turns out, Trevor has a bit of a habit of scouting female clients. He's already been disciplined twice for it. When I mentioned to the manager that Trevor was planning on moving into a client's apartment while she was still cohabitating with her ex, the gym decided that Trevor's brand didn't align with their family-friendly image anymore. Her face went pale. You got him fired? No, I corrected. His entitlement and lack of professional boundaries got him fired. I just provided the documentation. Oh, and one more thing. I checked the public records for that luxury SUV he drives. It's a lease to own that's 4 months behind on payments. The repo man has been looking for it. I gave them our parking garage address this morning as a courtesy. She slumped against the wall, her phone clutched in her hand. Why are you being so mean? I just told you I didn't love you. I was being honest. Honesty is saying you don't love me and moving out, I said, my voice dropping to a low, cold hum that matched the transducer still hidden in the wall. Dishonesty is staying in my home, mocking me behind my back, using my income to subsidize your lifestyle, and bringing your mistress equivalent into the bed I paid for. You wanted the adult arrangement? This is it. Adults face the consequences of their betrayals. She tried one last play. She lunged for my arm, her eyes wide and brimming with fake tears. I was just confused. The stress of work, the apartment. I didn't mean those things I said to my friend. I was just trying to sound tough. Please don't leave me like this. We can work it out. I'll get rid of the vanity. I'll tell Trevor it's over. I stepped back, letting her hand fall into empty air. The landlord already has the notice to quit filed. Even if I stayed, he's starting the eviction process for the lease violations. If you stay past the first without paying the full rent, he's going to file a formal eviction against your name. Do you know what an eviction does to your credit, especially in this city? You won't be able to rent a closet in a basement, let alone a place in this neighborhood. She looked at me with pure venom then. You think you're so smart. You're a monster. You're destroying my life over a breakup. I'm not destroying anything, I said, picking up the box. I'm just withdrawing my participation in your delusions. You wanted to live here without me? Now you can. All of it. The rent, the repairs, the legal threats, and the silence. Especially the silence. I walked out the door, but I didn't go far. I went to the manager's office downstairs. I had one final document to sign. In our state, if a tenant can prove a hostile living environment or if the landlord agrees to a mutual termination of lease, for one party due to documented lease violations by the other, the remaining party becomes solely responsible. I had the recordings of her admitting to using me for subsidized housing, and the landlord's own report on the damage. As I signed the papers, the landlord looked at me. You're sure about this? She's going to be out on the street by the 15th if she doesn't come up with $5,000. She's an adult, I repeated. She'll find her truth. It just might be a very expensive one. I spent the night at a hotel, but I kept my phone linked to the smart home cameras I'd installed months ago for security. Around midnight, I saw Trevor's SUV being towed out of the garage. At 2 a.m. I saw her throwing things against the wall in the master bedroom, the same wall where the transducers were still hidden, powered by a battery pack I'd tucked into the vent. The low-frequency hum was still going. She couldn't find it. She was losing her mind in a vibrating, expensive tomb of her own making. But the real twist? The one she never saw coming? It wasn't about the rent or the gym guy. The real twist wasn't that I'd ruined her reputation or her housing. It was that she'd forgotten who actually owned the luxury item she was banking on selling to cover the rent. 4 years ago, when we moved in, her parents had gifted us a collection of high-end vintage mid-century furniture. At the time, they told us it was a moving-in present for the couple. However, I'm a stickler for paperwork. I had insisted on a written gift affidavit for insurance purposes, and I'd made sure the document listed both of our names as joint owners. While she was screaming at her phone and trying to reach a now unemployed Trevor, I was finalizing a private sale with a local vintage dealer. Since I was a 50% owner and she had technically abandoned the items by signing the roommate agreement, which explicitly stated she was responsible for the master bedroom, and I retained rights to liquidate communal assets to cover shared debts, I had the legal green light to sell the lot. The dealer arrived with a moving van at 8 a.m. the next morning while she was at a desperate emergency meeting with her parents. By the time she got back, the living room was an echo chamber. The $4,000 sofa? Gone. The $2,500 sideboard? Gone. Even the designer rug. She walked in and dropped her bags. Where is the furniture? Sold, I said, handing her a receipt. I used the proceeds to pay off the remaining balance on our joint utility accounts and the early termination fee for the internet. There was about $300 left over. I left it on the kitchen counter for you. Consider it a head start on the rent. That was my parents' furniture, she shrieked, her voice cracking. You stole from me. Check the gift affidavit and the agreement you signed 3 days ago, I said calmly. It was communal property, and I used it to settle communal debts. Perfectly legal. If you want to sue me, you'll have to find a lawyer who costs less than the $300 I left you. The entitlement finally broke. She realized that every dirty trick she'd planned, staying in the apartment, using my money, dating the boss's brother, had been neutralized because she'd underestimated the doormat. She had treated our relationship like a predatory business deal, so I simply closed the business. The final confrontation happened as I was taking my last suitcase. She tried to block the door, her face a mask of desperation. You can't leave me with nothing. I have no furniture, no boyfriend, no car, and my boss is looking for any reason to fire me. Please, just stay 1 more month. I'll do anything. I'm sure you would, I said, moving her gently but firmly aside. But I'm not a landlord, a benefactor, or a subsidized housing program. I'm just the guy who didn't love you enough to let you ruin him. As I walked down the hall, I heard her scream one last time. A sound of pure entitled rage. The aftermath was swift. She couldn't make the rent on the 1st. The landlord, true to his word, filed for eviction on the 5th. With an eviction filing on her record and no references, her new truth involved moving back into her parents' basement in a town 3 hours away. Trevor, now carless and jobless, moved on to his next client within a week, leaving her completely isolated. I lost a 5-year relationship and a chunk of my savings, but I gained something much better. A life free of a parasite. I learned that some people don't want a partner. They want a host. And the best way to deal with a parasite is to make the environment too toxic for them to survive. Justice is best served with a side of legal fine print and a low-frequency hum. If you enjoyed watching a doormat turn into a master of consequences, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next time someone tries to play games and ends up losing the whole board.